Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where we'll be discussing the future of Microsoft Project with NextGen Microsoft Project and PowerApps. My name is Doug Welsby, and I'm a channel manager here at Microsoft. I'm also joined by my colleague Jim Patterson, our Director of Sales, and Matt Willey, our OnePlan Product Specialist. During today's webinar, attendees will be on mute and the line will not be open for questions. However, feel free to use the GoToWebinar question feature to submit questions. I will address these questions during the webinar and will respond via email if we do not get to your specific question. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away from the webinar, no need to worry, as I will be emailing a link to the presentation once it's been posted to our YouTube channel. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim, who will be handling the webinar.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate the introduction. And welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us today for our webinar on the future of Microsoft PPM, NextGen Microsoft Project with PowerApps. This is an exciting time. There's some revolutionary things happening in the world of project at Microsoft, and we're excited to be part of that and on the forefront of that and communicating to you what we know and what's been released to date as far as information on the direction that Microsoft is taking. To that end, why we're able to share this with you is that we are a trusted Microsoft partner in the PPM space. We've been implementing Microsoft PPM solutions since 2002 as a company. And we're proud to say in 2019, we were actually selected as their Worldwide PPM Partner of the Year. We're also on their Microsoft Partner Advisory Council, which means that we're one of the partners that go to Redmond periodically to work with the product team, give feedback, results, and suggestions on the direction of the product. And hence, we get some advanced information on directions and where things are going so that we can share them with our customers as trusted advisors and making sure that we architect their solutions in a way that get them on the right path and the right architecture moving forward and consistent with where Microsoft's going with its technology. Today, we'll be sharing information with you that Microsoft has made public to date and that we're allowed to. We are under NDA on some of the information until they formally release or announce. So some of that is still in play, meaning that we won't share some information, but as it becomes available, we're going to be doing a series of these webinars, releasing new information as we go along. So please keep posted on the things that we're doing so incrementally we can release these things to satisfy your curiosity and help you make plans for your organizations as you go on through. Just so you know, we are a full service productivity partner for Microsoft. We do everything that's Microsoft Cloud and even non-cloud for that matter, but almost everything seems to be done in the cloud these days. We provided the advisory services and the consulting for transformation services, strategic planning, and change management and adoption. And we actually handle all the solutions implementations that are required for these types of things and even bring into play our own intellectual property and tools to help augment those things where it makes sense to do for the client. To help them be successful on an operational side, we provide managed services and managed delivery. So sometimes customers want to outsource some things like administration and other aspects of that. And we can provide consulting and actually contingent staffing for things like project managers and other types of key roles that you might want. And obviously, we provide the training and support you would need to be successful with any solution implementation. So let's talk about this next chapter of project. It really is an exciting time. And what are some of the precepts or the fundamental principles behind this change? Well, Microsoft's vision is that the landscape of how we do work is changing out there and that teams really want to work the way they want. But executives still need to get the results and the information that they need. With cloud tools, the proliferation of tools, a lot of teams are able to choose different point solutions or tools to do the work that they're doing and the methodologies that they're working with. And the idea is sometimes that can become a very disjointed type of process or siloed situation of information that makes it difficult to get visibility and information in the way that the executives need. So the mission here is really to empower companies to achieve better results by, aligning investments with projects, right? And the resources and working with the agility and flexibility that we need and the collaboration for our globally distributed teams that are all using consistent tools that are intuitive and easy to use in the Microsoft Cloud. So to the extent that Microsoft provides more and more tools in their cloud offerings like Office 365 to be able to leverage those in a project management context in a consistent fashion in a way that's easy to use is very achievable with the tool sets that are available today. So in modern work management, and we talk about, potentially they use the term modern project with the tool sets that are coming out. Modern work management is really meant to address different modern problems with modern solutions. And what we need really are tools and capabilities that are transparent. Since work is happening everywhere and all the time in distributed teams in different tools, we can often lose track and not have the visibility we want. So the transparency goal is to be able to get the big picture for all the work, from task to the portfolio level and across multiple services that we may have within our organization. From a versatility perspective, our teams are choosing their own tools so they can work the way they want in the preferred tools of choice. And the real goal there is for them to be able to collaborate on projects with flexible methodology and familiar Microsoft tools, even though they may be diverse tools that they're using to make that happen. On the intuitive side of things, we have a different workforce that's out there today. Project managers aren't necessarily highly trained PMPs all the time. They're technical or functional folks that are sometimes called accidental project managers. They're given the role of a project manager, and they have to do their job maybe even though they don't have formal training in project management. And then we have an ever-increasing workforce of millennials that are used to an app culture with applications on their mobile devices and such that don't require training. They can get in and start working on things right away. So they want simple visual tools. So the key on the intuitive is to be able to start fast with simple interfaces and a modern web experience to address the needs of both the, let's just say, mature project manager or work manager, along with that accidental project manager, and even the millennials that have different expectations on the things that they're looking for. On the integrated side of things, our business processes now are running across functions within organizations, so they're cross-functional type of projects and work efforts, or they may even be geographically dispersed. And that geographic dispersity may not just be with internal people, it may be with business partners and consultants and contractors that we're working with, and even our customers who are actively participating in our projects and our systems. So in the end, we want an integrated solution or platform that allows you to run your end-to-end business processes on a single platform, even though we may be pulling from a variety of different tools and methodologies. And then ultimately, we don't want to be in the business of maintaining the technology and the compliance and the security in all this. The idea to have a platform that does all this where the vendor, in this case, Microsoft, is providing a compliance system that's highly secure and highly scalable to meet the needs you want so that you can focus on your primary mission as a company and an organization, your primary focus, and not managing servers and security and all those types of things around it. So when we talk about getting the big picture, a modern PPM solution should do a number of things. It should help us align our investments to strategy, meaning are we investing and spending our time and our efforts and our money in the right areas for our organization? To be able to identify and select and deliver project portfolios and projects within them that best align with our business strategy and maximize the returns and benefits to the organization. And also give us methods so that we can prioritize projects based on objective measures rather than say more subjective, preferential types of ways to do things, and really choose the things that are best suited to move the ball forward for our organizations. Also, once we choose those things, to be able to have visibility so we can monitor the progress of those investments in those projects towards the business goal. Are we achieving those, and is the investment reaping the benefits that we're seeing or that we anticipated when we approved it and invested in it? And then just ultimately gain visibility across all the work and be able to quickly understand and have leadership understand where things are, how we're progressing, what's our spend, what's the resource situation from a project level, task level, all the way up to through the programs and the portfolios that we're working on in the organization. And then work how you want. A modern PPM solution should help your teams work their way, like we talked about earlier on, using their preferred methods like agile, waterfall, some hybrid of those types of things, or maybe even some ad hoc unstructured way, just task management or task lists. And the idea is you want to use tools that match their work style. And there's a number of different options within the Microsoft cloud stack in Office 365 and elsewhere within Microsoft Cloud, as well as other non-Microsoft tools that are popular out there that can be pulled into the mix. The key is we should be able to manage tasks and time from anywhere and enable teams or team members to report on their own tasks and until completion anywhere, anytime, on any device, and make it simple to do so that we keep that feedback loop going. We can plan and assign things and get the feedback back from the people who are actually doing the work in a very closed loop automated process. And then be able to maintain governance to quickly understand status of the investments with built-in governance tools like workflows so that we can maintain whatever level of governance, oversight, and control might be necessary within the organization to meet your needs and your compliance needs. And then starting fast. A modern PPM solution should empower all your information workers, no matter what their role is. Everybody from an accidental project manager or to a professional project manager, to be able to give them simple task boards for managing the projects that they need to, or a simplified user experience that allows them to get in and get that done without a whole lot of training. And the professional PMs still have the need and the desire for advanced tools and capabilities for a more nuanced and complete approach. And we want to be able to provide both of those things to those people. And that's what this new generation is going to be able to do. And then we also want to boost productivity with familiar tools. So whether it be on the collaborative side, on the project management side, et cetera, is let's provide modern web experiences that resonate with the user, are familiar to them, and make them feel like they're tools that they want to use rather than ones that they're being forced to use. And then be able to model your processes across all and functions across all functions and systems. Be able to tailor the PPM experience based upon the tools that you're using, whether it's Office 365, Dynamics 365, Azure DevOps for the software dev community, et cetera. And be able to easily extend that functionality. We're going to talk about the concept of PowerApps and the Power Platform. And where Microsoft is going with this is now the ability to provide a scalable platform that really takes it to the next level on the ability to create custom apps, automated workflows and business processes, and do it in a way where no coding experience is required. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on through. And to be able to collaborate with integrated tools, as we talked about these cross-functional, cross-geographic, cross-tool sets, by having the ability to easily bring these things together in an integrated fashion so that we can pull disparate data together and get visibility as we want, that's a key requirement in solutions today, and we're going to talk about how that's achieved. Ultimately, we want to focus on our business, our core missions, not the technology itself. Microsoft will handle that providing an environment where in a single instance of a PPM solution, and you can have many instances within your infrastructure. A single instance can manage up to 30,000 projects and resources on a single platform while maintaining enterprise-grade performance in this new infrastructure. And the idea of you having to forget about the infrastructure aspects of this, Microsoft is certified to meet the highest level securities and compliance based on the nature of your organization and what you want, and meet all the regional industry standards. Those meet compliance standards like things like HIPAA and FedRAMP and all the GDPR needs out there, the ISO standards. All those things are handled by the vendor, in this case, by Microsoft, so you don't have to worry about those things. And since they do it on a grand scale at a data center level, they're doing it at a level that most organizations don't have the wherewithal to maybe handle. So in this new modern work management ecosystem, there's really tools and capabilities at every level that we're talking about here. You know, at the portfolio level for overall PPM portfolio management, we've still got Project Online. We've got the roadmap capabilities and other portfolio visibility visualization tools that are available to us to stay on track with those types of things. And then at the execution level for PPM on getting visibility at the portfolio level, we have Project Online, and we'll talk about this new entry called Project Home that allows us to do those things, kind of a PMO kind of level function. And on the collaborative work management or project management side of things, Microsoft alone has tools like Project, Office 365, Office 365 Planner, and even Azure boards within Azure DevOps are tools that are in the mix there. And it allows project teams to use the tool sets and even some non-Microsoft tool sets that are conducive to the way they want to do work. And then down at the business process workflow level, there's all kinds of tools within the Power Platform and in the Microsoft Cloud that support both Office 365, Dynamics 365, and we'll talk about the CDS, the Common Data Service as well, as a place where it can be a central repository for all our work. So Microsoft is thinking about this from all levels, all types of work, and all types of roles of participants. So it's already been introduced, and those of you that use Project Online may have had the opportunity to work with this, the introducing of a project home, which is actually evolving, but it's really meant to be an entry point for all users of different types so they can easily access the projects and roadmaps from across a centralized hub and be able to tailor that to what their favorites are, or maybe be tailored to the things that they most access frequently. They also give you the ability to create new projects using a preferred methodology, whether it be Microsoft Project Online, whether it be this new modern project we're going to talk about, whether it's Azure DevOps or Azure Boards, and in the future some additional tools that are going to come into the mix as well. And the idea is to be able to track all those projects from a single, or access those projects from a single project home. And the ability to drill into it from here, no matter where that project's being managed, is the vision here. And this is evolving and growing in capabilities as we go forward. And then we talked about roadmap a little bit early on, and this is the ability to provide a visual capability that's not just a drawing like you do in a PowerPoint, for example, but to be able to see all portfolio roadmaps, both proposed and current projects, in one place, and be able to tailor the visual to the way you want it. You can create the roadmaps and define key dates that you'd like to track, and actually connect them to actually live project data, so that the status and what you're seeing in there can actually be connected to the actual physical plans you have, and the tasks and milestones, et cetera, that you have in, say, Azure DevOps, Project Online, Office 365 Planner, et cetera. And the idea is that these roadmaps can then give people a visual way to look at things at a level of detail that may be more commensurate for the audience that you want to communicate this to. And ultimately, you can prioritize projects inside to basically achieve top-down planning and make sure that you're working on the right things, and staging things and sequencing projects in the way that you want to best for the organization. Coming soon, something that's not released but is coming here in the near future, is this, what was called Project Service at the time this deck was released. Some folks are calling it Modern Project, but it really is designed to give people a more modern, browser-based user experience. It's allowing more simplified planning, though allows you to do more sharing of information on an individual basis with using group security, much like you would in things like Teams or groups in Outlook. Capabilities, so that you can actually choose how you want to collaborate and to what degree you want to collaborate with team members that are out there. It's going to add some innovative things that you don't have in project today, like co-authoring, where people can simultaneously work on plans together and co-author as they refine and adjust the plans. And then there's really a new scheduling service built on the back end of this, and it's built on this PowerApps platform we're going to talk about shortly. And it's fully integrated with the Dynamics apps as we go on through, meaning you can use it in a variety of different ways, as opposed to just, say, with Project Online that's based on SharePoint today. And as this journey's being made, what's on the back end, and probably one of the biggest things, is there is the Common Data Service, or CDS for apps as it's called, which is the new vehicle for project. It really is the repository for all things in business solutions Microsoft, and that it works as part of the PowerApps platform and working in conjunction with Microsoft Flow and other aspects of that. CDS for apps delivers more power in the terms of scalability, performance, and with the highest levels of security and compliance, beyond which even, say, Project Online users may have today. If you look at this split screen, you look at the top, the project management or PPM type of capabilities we're looking at that's up there, the modern project, the scheduling capabilities, the roadmaps, using modern group security, and then ultimately time and expense, resource management, and approvals via the project workflows and things like that. But the PowerApps platform really provides things like forms designing, an app module designer, a Canvas studio for maybe giving more streamlined mobile access, to the applications and the data that you have. Dashboard designers and view designers, as well as full integration with Microsoft Flow, so you can build robust workflows and business processes, not just from a sequencing and flow perspective as far as workflow as we think about it for approvals and routing, but also using it to help connect data back and forth between other applications that are being brought together, like we talked about in this group of disparate tools. And the common data service on the back end makes this all possible. So this new platform opens a whole new realm of possibilities and takes it to another level. So Power Platform, it's the productivity platform that will span all of the Microsoft Cloud, Office 365, Dynamics 365, and the standalone applications that you have within there. It allows us to customize and extend and build the PPM or project management solution you need using that Power Platform, and it will leverage by native extensions to Power BI for dashboards, reporting, and analytics. Microsoft Flow, like we said, for business process modeling and workflows. And then overall PowerApps, so that we can tailor this with codeless or low code or no code apps to basically supplement and make it applicable for your particular organization. So PowerApps is easy to build apps with low code or no code. It actually builds the code for you on the back end of it. You can connect to any data within your infrastructure. It provides the ability to access enterprise governance and security like we talked about early on. And it also provides extensibility so that you can extend these solutions and develop as you see fit to make these things truly yours within the organization. And then if we think about it, that whole idea of integrated solutions, there's another view here in the middle of what PowerApps has available to it, even including the idea of leveraging things like machine learning and AI within the growing capabilities there within the Microsoft Cloud. But look at the top where now your Office 365 tools, your Microsoft Planner, your Microsoft Project, and the Modern Project that's coming, and the Azure DevOps and Azure Boards can now all feed and leverage PowerApps and be part of that common data service on the back end. What we see down on the bottom here is a growing list of Microsoft and non-Microsoft applications or services that have built-in connectors so that we connect those in to this PowerApps ecosystem. And the idea is that this really fulfills the vision of easily bringing these things together into a common platform and common visibility. So now we're Wickersoft. We've been on this train, as we said, as a trusted partner for Microsoft for about the last year and a half. And Wickersoft already has solutions available in this realm. We actually have a PowerApps-based solution for the folks that are actually putting these things in place to connect execution and strategy and bringing all these tools into place. And we have pre-configured solutions that help get people up quickly by leveraging our OnePlan tool and OnePlan approach. The idea here is that this is here today. Even as Microsoft increasingly releases additional capabilities, we have customers that we're actually executing on this with today actively and actually providing solutions that not only bring these things together, but incorporate feeds. And this diagram or this picture indicates from, say, Office 365 Planner, from Project and or Azure DevOps or Azure Boards, or doing things with Jira or integrating with Teams, for example, from a collaborative perspective. The idea here is that if you want to have these conversations, Wickersoft is doing these things actively, and we've been building things in this realm for the last year to year and a half. So the things that you might find in a pre-configured PPM solution that you can springboard off of are things like demand management within that capability and visuals around that. Portfolio management so that we can do prioritization and evaluation and what-if scenarios and be able to look at portfolio boards and manipulate and visualize our portfolios in a variety of flexible ways. Financial management, so we can do detailed cost categories and look at time-phased actuals and cost types and reporting around all that. Resource management, easily done in the browser so that we can do capacity planning and tracking. So we can get an idea of, do we have the wherewithal to fulfill on the commitments that we're making overall, and how can we plan for our headcount? Overall project management, as I said, work the way you want to work, feed in the different tools that you'd like to from an execution perspective, and have it feed into the portfolio so that it really doesn't matter where you execute. It all feeds into the same type of visibility that your leadership is looking for. In the collaboration, we're really making extensive use and innovative use of Microsoft Teams as a collaborative area that brings a lot of these different places together, whether it be, and I won't steal any thunder, but basically we're doing all kinds of things that really leverage the fast growing use of Teams in the marketplace, which is now officially the fastest adopted tool in the history of Microsoft from a user perspective. And then adding the things that we expect or that we want into our solutions, things like being able to manage issues, risks, change requests, lessons learned, whatever those might be. We have a lot of pre-built things in these pre-configured solutions in Microsoft's OnePlan approach to the Power Platform and the PowerApps solution that allows you to get up quickly with all these things that you're used to having as well. And then status reports, be able to get that narrative-based status and get status reports coming out of it in a natural output of the process, as opposed to us having to build these status reports by mashing up data and maybe putting it into a common form and format manually, or at least semi-manually. Let's get ourselves out of that business of constructing these status reports all the time and have it become more of a natural output in our process and free us up for more high-value type of activities. Time reporting is built into this as well in this new PowerApps based solution, as well as all the analytics and integrations that we talked about earlier on. So with that, hopefully we teed up and whetted your appetite on for what's here and what's coming. And now Matthew is going to take over and give you a demonstration of how all this is here today and how you can leverage it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jim. So I'm logged in here into Office 365 and within the PowerApps experience. And from here, this is where I can navigate and manage and get into all the different functionality that Jim was just talking through. So we'll go through in kind of a relative process order from start to finish and show you how this all works. At the very beginning here, we can create different portfolios. A portfolio can be used to group together lots of relevant programs as well as different projects that you might be working on. I'm going to click into one of my portfolios, like my cloud and mobile first portfolio. And when I do that, it takes me into the details form where I can then see all of the information around this particular portfolio. Who's the owner of it, who's the sponsor from an executive perspective, a timeline of what's going on, some business case information, all around this particular portfolio. If I was to come in and create a new one, I would be filling out this form with all this information. You can also track financials at all the different levels. Levels meaning portfolios, programs, projects, and we'll go through those as we continue on. And so what you'll see here is I have $9.5 million that I've allocated to this particular portfolio. And we've created some projects under it, and we've been building out budgets for those particular projects, which total up to about almost $4 million. And so you can see we have about 5.5 remaining to go spend on other projects to try to achieve the goals of this particular portfolio. And then measure that against any benefits that we're tracking to and get things like ROI and so on and so forth. We can also track status at the different levels, so we can see overall health, financial health, schedule health, effort health, etc., and do roll-ups so we can see there are 7 active projects going on across this portfolio right now. 3 of those projects are at risk and 1 of them is off track. And so we can utilize that to do some roll-ups and get a better idea of what's going on for this portfolio as a whole. The next tab here shows me all of the programs, one level down, that are related to this particular portfolio. So we have 3 different programs going on right here. I can click into one of them, like world-class customer support. And at the program level, we'll see a lot of the same or similar information, but it's just now for this particular program. So 1 level down from the portfolio, a particular program, and a grouping of projects that are going on for that particular program. So we see the general information here, the timeline of what's going on. We can put in notes, and we can even actually attach this using the Outlook add-in and have it automatically track emails and keep those things up to date right here in the timeline for us, so we don't have to manually kind of key in different events that have been happening around this particular program and notes and such. And again, we can go into the financials tab, but when I look at this, now I'm looking at just the financials for this program. So for this program, we allocated $4.5 million, and the different projects that are related to this, the budgets for those total up to about 2.7. If it totaled up to more than what the program budget is, that would be a problem, right? We're planning to spend more money on the projects than what we've given to this program. And then you can see the actuals rolling up as those things start to come in as those active projects continue on. Again, we can look at the status of this program. And at this level, then we can see all of the related projects to this particular program. And so I can come in here and I could click on one of these projects to get into it that way. But I could also come into any one of the entities that we were talking about and access them this way. So I can look at all of my portfolios and the health of those portfolios and so on and so forth. I could look at all of my programs and see key information around those programs. And then when I'm ready to get down to the project level, this is my project center, the place where I can see all my projects, my one pane of glass, the status of those projects, and any other information I choose to show in these different views here. So let's dive into a project and really get into the meat of things. So I'm going to go into my VoIP phones project here. And as a new project comes in, we would first, fill out some information around this project. You'll notice that there is a business process across the top where we're going to go through different phases, process flows, stage gates, if you want to call them that, depending on your terminology you're utilizing. And at each particular stage, there are certain things that we have to fill out. So before I can move on out of the create stage, I had to at least fill in name. At the select stage, then I needed to make sure to fill out needs staffing, so on and so forth. And we can have approvals and workflow behind this utilizing flow to make sure that before we move from one stage to the next, we did everything we were supposed to do. And that can be configured to meet your processes, right? This is just how it is out of the box. We would put in your phases and stages and your process and your approvals and whatever needs to happen to get a project from start to finish. Build that all into this. From there, I could also then build out my business case around this particular project. And I can do things like set my prioritization and generate some scores based off of different logic. In this case, I can pick things like how strategically aligned is this project to my business objectives? Is this going to help improve employee retention? Is it going to help lower costs? And what's the risk? And all of that together then calculates out a prioritization score, 100 being the highest, 0 being the lowest. And so we can utilize this to start making some decisions around priority of our projects. We can also do a more lean or agile type of prioritization. This is actually using WSJF, or weighted shortest job first. And the idea is you fill out some different pieces of information here. What business value are we going to get? What's the risk reduction? What's the time criticality, meaning how time critical is this? Do we need to do it sooner? If we do it later, is that going to cause problems? And what's the swag, basically the amount of effort we think it's going to take? All of that all adds up to give us a WSJF score here. The higher the score, the more priority it should get. The lower the score, the less, that kind of a thing. And so this is just what's out of the box. If you have other scoring methods, those can be configured, and or you can pick to use one or the other or both of these depending on what suits your organization the best. One of the very first things that we might want to do before we approve this project and actually start working on it is we want to better understand two things. One, the resources it's going to take to do this project. Do we need 5 people, 10 people? What types of resources do we need? Are they developers? Are they QAs? Are they engineers? And for how long? Is it the next 3 months, 6 months, etc.? And so you can come in and you can build a high-level resource plan here. And so what you can see is these are the resources that I'm asking for and how much I'm asking for them within a particular period of time. And you can do this either in hours, in percents, or in FTEs, full-time equivalents. So if I wanted to look at this from a percent perspective, then I can flip it to that and I can switch back and forth on these at any point. Right now I'm doing my resource planning by month, which is where many do it. You could do it at a more detailed level like the weekly level or a quarterly level, or sometimes even yearly level, especially if it's operational type of work and I just want to allocate someone 25% on the help desk for the next year, that kind of a thing. You can pick and choose what level of detail that you want to plan at. If I'm looking for a resource for my project, then I can pop open the find resources window down here at the bottom, and I can come in and I can go search for resources. If I don't quite yet know who I'm going to need, I can say I just want to search for generics, meaning I need a business analyst or a developer or whatever it might be. If I do know who I need, I can come and look in here by role. Say I need a developer. I can see all my different developers, who's available, who's not within a particular period of time. And if I expand into someone, I can see what they're already working on and why they may be already over allocated, and start to figure out what resources are going to be the best for me on this particular project that I'm trying to build this resource plan out for. Later on, we'll be able to do some what-if analysis and figure out how to kind of adjust things and move things around so we can get all the work done within the resources that we have. But up front, we need to just better understand the types of resources it's going to need at a minimum, even if you don't know who's going to do it yet. The other thing that I might come and build out here is a budget. We want to better understand the cost of this particular project. And so I can do that within here as well. The first piece of this is my labor costs. And to get my labor costs, I can come in and I can simply hit import. And based off of that resource plan I just created, it will then calculate out the labor costs for me. In this case, I have them broken out by role, but that could be by department or by team or however you want to break out those labor costs. And it'll calculate it for me based off of blended rates that we've set up in the system. So the hours times the blended rates gives me the cost. So I don't have to try to manually go calculate that out in Excel or other places. That all rolls up and gives me my labor costs. And then from there, I can key in any other costs that I might have. So for example, in October, I have travel and expenses of $10,000. And this is very much like an online Excel spreadsheet, if you want to think of it that way. So we now understand my budget needs is going to be about $467,000 and where that budget's going to fall. Again, right now I'm planning by month, but I could come in here and I could switch to quarter or year depending on the level of detail that I'm looking for in my budget. Later on, then you can also use this to actually track forecasts, to track actuals, and or benefits of this project. And this is all configurable, so we can set this up to have whatever cost types that you want, as well as these cost categories here are configurable, so we could set this up to match your cost structure. You may have noticed here that there's an expense type field, so if I need to, I can also break these things up and track these back to capital expenses and operational expenses for financial purposes as well. All right, so now that I have my financial plan and my resource plan, and I've loaded in some information around benefits, that was that prioritization scoring that we were doing, we can now come in as more of portfolio managers or an executive steering committee. Sometimes it's referred to as a SLT, senior leadership team. Whoever's responsible for making choices of which projects we're going to do and when we're going to do them, the tool that I'm going to show you here is a great way to do just that. So what we're looking at is a list of all of the different projects that we have going on here. And it's grouped up by portfolio right now, so we can see each portfolio, the projects that are going on for that, and some of the status across those. Some of these are active projects that are already being worked on, in-flight projects. Some of them are proposed, things that have been proposed that haven't started yet. And you may notice over here, there's a variety of different tools that can be utilized to actually manage the execution of these projects later on. And we'll see that as we go through this. But we can use everything from Project Desktop to Azure DevOps. We can integrate this with Microsoft Teams, so we have a collaborative space, and we'll see how that works later as well. Even third-party tools like Jira, and the Office 365 Planner. So depending on the project and what's going on, we'll be able to use the right tool to execute on that. We'll see that a little bit later as we go on. We'll dive more into that. So from here, I'm going to switch my view though, and I'm going to switch over to my prioritization view. And so what this is going to allow me to do is see all of my different projects and see that prioritization that we were looking at earlier. So those different prioritization choices we made and the prioritization score over here on the right, as well as possibly other things that we may want to see in this particular view, like budget and benefits. And we could add in other metrics like ROIs and NPVs and IRRs and any other things that we may want while we're doing this prioritization exercise. Just by the same, I could also switch to my lean prioritization view. So if you were using that lean method that I showed earlier, where we set a business value, a risk reduction, a swag, a time criticality, et cetera, and we get a WSJF score, I could utilize that, or maybe even show both of them in the same view if I want. So while I'm doing my prioritization, I can reference the different prioritization scores while I'm making my choices. So you could come in and just sort this by that prioritization score and sort it by WSJF and say, okay, my top priority is going to be this project here at the top. My lowest priority is going to be that one at the bottom. But a lot of times you want more control over it than that. And what I mean is, what if the CEO said one of these projects was something we had to do? Maybe that's our #1 priority, even though the WSJF score isn't as high. We need to have some, some control around this. So I'll flip it into prioritization mode here, and what I can do is I can simply drag and drop to update the priorities of these items. So I come here and go, oh, the WSJF score of this guy, Fabricam, is 16. Maybe I should bump that up a little bit higher. I can just simply drag and drop that, and it will reorganize these things accordingly. And if you wanted to focus in and just prioritize for a specific portfolio or program or business unit, there's filters in here that you can utilize to filter this down and just look at the things that you want to look at when you're doing this prioritization exercise. Once you have everything in the order that you want it, so we now know, okay, this is my highest priority, down at the bottom are my lowest priorities, then we can overlay different pieces of information on top of this. The first thing that we might look at is cost, budget. We only have so much money. We can't necessarily do all of these projects or do them all when people are asking for them to be done. And so what we can see here is we're looking at all the projects and it's totaling up the budget that it's going to take to do these projects in the time periods it's being asked to be done. We can then create a target, like my fiscal year 2019 or 2020 or whatever it might be, or for a certain quarter budget. And we can see then as those costs roll up against my total budget, say for my whole IT department or for this program or portfolio, for whatever I'm looking at here, then you can see if you're going to have any issues. So it's highlighting the months in red where I'm going to be over budget, which is a problem, right? We have to figure out how to fix that. Again, right now I'm looking at this by month, but you could do this by quarter or by year if you wanted to kind of total things up and look at this in a little less detail. But now what we can do is we can start doing some what-if planning. And so I can say, well, there's some problems here. We can't spend over this amount of budget unless we're going to go get more money. And so we got to figure out how we're going to do it. One thing that I can do is I can scroll down to these lower priority projects here and say, what if I don't do these or put them in a hold? And so I can uncheck them. And when I do that, it will reload my budget down here below and show me how that would affect things. So I'm just doing what ifs right now, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to stay inside my budget. If we have to do these items, it's not a matter of, are we going to do it or not? Then the other thing that I can adjust is time, meaning I can come here and I can pop out my Gantt over on the side, and I can see how all these projects are currently laid out when people are asking for them to be done. But if this is a lower priority project, maybe I drag that out a quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, whatever that might be. And when I do that, it's going to refresh down here and show me how that's going to affect my budget. And so I can effectively come in and start to build out my timeline or my budget or which projects I'm going to do, not do, and build a whole scenario around that. I can then save that as a scenario and come back to it at any point. And I may save 2 scenarios. Scenario A, we're not going to do these 3 projects. Scenario B, we're just going to move them out 2 quarters, or maybe a mixture of for a scenario C. And as a team, as a business, we can figure out which way we want to go to get all of this work done, so that when we walk into this, we walk into it with a plan instead of just kind of seeing where things fall and trying to then adjust after the fact, right? This is top-down portfolio planning. The same thing we did there on the cost side, we can also do on the resource side of things. So I can switch this over and look at this from a resource management perspective. Excuse me. And I can see all of my different resources here, who's over allocated, who's not. And as I check and uncheck things or move things around again, it's going to show me what that would do to my resources. So when we get there, even though we may have the money, we don't run into problems with resources, not being able to get people allocated to our project, not having people ramped up and ready to go. And then that can cause major delays, as well as cost issues on projects if we're sitting and spinning due to resource issues, right? So we can make sure that we have a resource plan before we go into this as well, and that all saves into that same scenario. Once you've done this and you've figured out which projects you're going to do and when you're going to do them, then we can get more into the execution side of things. Before we jump over to that, there's also a Kanban board view of all of my projects. So this isn't like a task user story Kanban board. This is a project level Kanban board. So this is showing me all of my projects and what stage that they are currently in. And this is drag and drop, so you can move this around and you can color it so that in this case, it's showing me the overall health. If the overall health is red, it highlights it in red. If it's yellow, it highlights it in yellow, or green, all good, that kind of a thing. And see that all in the Kanban board view. And you can group that up many different ways. Maybe I want to group this up by portfolio. So now I can see each of my different portfolios and the different projects that are aligned to them. And so you could group this up any which way you want to see a different Kanban board of that. There's also a roadmap view built into here, so I can come in and I can see a very clear, nice, easy timeline of when all my projects are expected to be happening. Progress, you can see there's a little progress bar on these guys for the ones that are already active. And you can also see some dependencies between these. Notice these little lines here that show dependencies between those guys. And then the color coding can again be based off of overall health or anything else that you might want to color code that by. And this can be really nice for sharing timeline with stakeholders, with customers, with upper management, executives, etc. Right from here, I could also come and print this out to PDF and or a piece of paper if I chose to do so. So now that we've gone in and we've done our portfolio planning, let's get down to the execution side of things. Let's say our project has been selected. We're ready to start doing our planning. We've made it to that gate. We have multiple different options to doing that. And so the first thing is I'm going to come into one of my projects here, my VoIP phones project that we were looking at earlier, and I'll come back to that plan tab. And what I can do is I can come in and build out basically my project schedule, and I can do that in many different ways. I have multiple different options. In this case, I've utilized Project Desktop to do that. And so you'll see this particular project, VoIP Phones, is connected here to Project Desktop. And so I have my Project Desktop schedule that I created. I could create that from a template or create that from scratch. I then connect it up here, and it's going to ask me to log in. If you have single sign-on, then it'll automatically log you in and put you through that. And so once you're logged in there, then you can simply hit publish. And so I now built my project schedule in Project Desktop, and then I'm publishing it up into the modern PowerApps solution here, so that it'll all then roll up and show up in reports, and people that get assigned tasks will get emails being notified, and so on and so forth, to kind of really start to kick off the schedule piece of that project. As people update their status, they mark these things off complete and such, then we can hit update and pull those back in, approve or reject them before they come in if we want, and then let that update the schedule and see how that affects things. So it's a bi-directional sync there, as you might expect. That's just one option. As I mentioned before, that we could easily connect this up to the Office 365 Planner. And when the new modern project service capability is released, this will flow into the mix as well. It will be part of the same experience. You'd be able to use that for building out your schedule. On the Agile side of things, if this is an Agile project, then you can also connect this up to one or more Agile tools like Azure DevOps or Jira, or other Agile tools that you might be utilizing to pull that into the mix as well from the execution side. As people are working on this, resource managers can come in and get the resource manager-centric view of the world. So I can come in and see from a resource manager's perspective who's working on what, who's over-allocated, who's not across all of these different projects. And I could filter this out, and I just want to look at certain roles, just my developers, or I could even group this up if I wanted to see where I'm having some shortages. So if I group this up, say by role, I can see that my developers are over allocated within certain periods of time. If I expand into that, it'll show me all of my developers, and then I can expand into an individual developer and see exactly what that person is working on and when they're expected to be working on it and such. And again, I can look at it in hours, percents, FTEs, and switch from months to quarters to years, depending on what level of detail you're looking at. And this isn't just a view or a report. This is actually editable if you have permissions to do so. So I could go, hey, Kono has availability. What if I take this particular project that WoFat is expected to be starting to working on in the near future and drag and drop that up to Kono? That'll help us, spread the work out a little bit better and avoid some over allocation. You can do all of that from here, and there can be a negotiation process around this if you choose to do so between the project manager and the resource manager. So you're not just making a change and it's just done and no one knows what happens. It will, have a communication and a negotiation between the two where both have to approve if you choose to do so. That's a more advanced feature that can be enabled if you want. From a team member's perspective, I can come in and I can see my work, all the things that are assigned to me, all of my tasks and such that I need to be working on, and I can simply come in here and status those items right from here. I can comment on these, so there's a full social capability built into this, and simply update that status and then let that roll back into wherever that work came from, whether that's Project Desktop, Office 365 Planner, or the new project service once that is available. On the timesheet side of things, if you need people to fill out timesheets so we can better understand where their time is actually going and or for financial purposes, because these can turn into actual costs, then I can come in here and I can see all the different work that I've been working on, and I can simply come in and fill out my time on all of this, say what I've been working on, when I've been working on it, put in any notes if I want, and then save and submit that timesheet at the end of the week, so that all flows back into the process and reports and such as well. After all that, as all of this is going on, there's different reports that people generally want that's going to give us visibility into the status, into the financials, into the timesheets, into all of this. And so there's a full report pack on top of this that is built within Power BI that leverages all the great capabilities of Power BI so we can get some really robust reports. We can view these right here through Dynamics. It all integrates, PowerApps into the same mix, as well as we could pop this open in Power BI and we could get a lot more into the details and have the kind of full Power BI experience here. So there's multiple different reports. I'll just touch on a few key ones here. This particular one is showing all my projects, the status of those projects from an overall perspective, a schedule perspective, a financial perspective, showing things like budgeted costs versus forecast versus actuals and what's remaining. And these reports are just a starting point, so we can tweak them and change these, add in other information that you might see, group these up in different ways, add in different filters that you may want. And everything here is all connected together. So if I click on the off-track part of my overall health, it will then filter down and just show me the projects where I'm off track or at risk, so on and so forth. It all kind of lets you filter and drill down into the details that you may be looking for. There's lots of different reports in here. I won't go into them in detail, but there's cost reports showing all that cost information so we can get better visibility into that. There's resource reports showing you how your resources are doing and getting visibility into that. And all the way down into detailed issues, risks, and changes that you might be managing around these particular projects as well. So we can report on the full gambit of all the projects and everything that's going on there. One thing to mention too is all of this is available through Teams. The great thing about the whole Microsoft Office 365 ecosystem is that it all just naturally works together really well. And so for each particular project, we could spin up a team, and we then have a Teams conversation stream around this. We have a modern place to store all of our files, documents, and such. But all the capabilities that we've been seeing, for example, those resource planning capabilities, the project scheduling capabilities, the financial planning capabilities, and all of that are actually available right here within Teams as well. So if I was to come in, and this isn't just a picture or anything, this is actually a live working place of where I could build my resource plan, my financial plan, I could update my schedule. All of that is available through here as well. So if you work in Teams all day, every day, you can continue to do that, as well as get other put in other tabs to other applications, because there's so many connectors in here. So you can connect this up to all the different tools that you might be using to manage these particular projects and such, right? So with that, you can really see how it ties together the whole experience all the way through all the different capabilities from project start to project finish, utilizing Power BI for reporting and utilizing Teams for collaboration. It really brings it together into one modern experience to manage everything that there is to do around these different projects. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Jim for a couple closing notes, and then we'll let you guys go for the day. So here you go, Jim.
All right, thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that. Thank you for the wonderful demonstration. Let me grab the screen back here. All right. So let's just do a little summarization and wrap up real quickly. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. Just in summary, what we showed you today really addresses a modern user experience that's expected by today's workforce. And PowerApps is Microsoft's platform for business solutions moving forward. So as you're looking at making changes and doing things anew, a move in that direction is consistent with where Microsoft's going strategically. And the common data service behind all that provides a common repository for all your projects and all other work that makes it easy to access, view, and report on. And OnePlan provides a very robust pre-configured adaptive PPM solution for the Power Platform, and that's available to you here and right now. And it can incorporate tools appropriate for the user role, maturity, and the type of work that they're using. Matthew showed you how it connects with a variety of different work tools through the course of the demonstration. It also supports a variety of execution methodologies, whether there's more agile, more Kanban, more waterfall types of approach, or hybrids thereof. It is all supported within this. This also improves adoption overall of PPM solutions and project tracking and work management by streamlining access and navigation and making it more simplified and browser-based. Ultimately, it provides a better user experience, which hence drives better participation, which drives better compliance and more complete and timely information. We find that to be true. The more we get people in tools that they like to work in and find easy to use, the better those things happen. Ultimately, this is going to drive better collaboration across all areas of our diverse and distributed businesses. Just an example, just a case study of a Fortune 500 based construction company and engineering firm that's going down this path and is actually in process of actually implementing the solution that we talked about here today. Some good comments that here thanking us for our efforts and feeling that this solution is really going to meet their needs. Customer pain areas were portfolio and project management, resource management, financial planning, and actuals from SAP with integration, portfolio analysis, as well as reporting. And the Microsoft solution provided the PowerApps platform, provides the ideation, the planning, the prioritization, reporting around all that, leveraging the tools that they had and incorporating Flow and Power BI. And then OnePlan really provided the capabilities that they needed of the level of rigor and detail they wanted for financial resource planning and portfolio analysis. So the benefit to the customer is that they're being able to effectively budget the dollars per project, make a practice roadmap and product decisions, and then actually adjust the team resources accordingly based upon things that are coming in and changing priorities. So by us offering this solution, it gives them the flexibility to do those things. So just wanted to make the point that this stuff is here today. It's not all futures, and that people are actively doing things with this platform today and seeing great returns. If you're looking for some information from Microsoft, they have released over time some pieces on their vision, a community letter about the direction of new project, and some an FAQ type of Q&A type of document. You'll get a copy of this slide presentation, and just be aware that there's some things in here that Microsoft has said about the direction of this that is consistent with what we're presenting here today. So we're not talking about anything out of school here. And then just for participating today, we'd like to offer you a free road mapping session to help you understand what it might take you to get from the use of Microsoft Project Desktop or Project Online into the new PowerApps plus OnePlan pre-configured environment. We could review your current use of Project Online, Microsoft Project, or other project management tools, assess the current requirements and desired future state, determine how to implement or migrate to the new PowerApps PPM solution, and then give you an idea of an implementation roadmap that we think might be best for adoption success within your organization. And we can include with that a total cost of ownership of what it would take from a financial perspective to make that move. So anyway, we'd love to have you take us up on this offer and have us discuss to get you a better understanding what it might take to get you into the things you saw today. If you're not quite ready for that PPM roadmap experience, we're also happy to set you up with a trial of OnePlan and the experience you saw today with Microsoft Chaperone support. Or if not even that, we gave you a generalized demonstration, a personalized one-on-one demo for your organization, maybe addressing some of your key pain points and requirements. Also, coming in November, please stay tuned as the Microsoft is developing a roadshow to come to the various cities around the country after Microsoft's Ignite to talk about all the exciting stuff that gets announced and released at that point when we're allowed to talk about that and then give you the additional information that will be released coming in the future. We always have on-demand or upcoming webinars at us.microsoft.com/webinars, so please feel free to look at those on-demand pre-recorded ones, as well as ones that may be coming up. If you want to reach out to us about any of the offers, contact us at microsoft.com is the general email alias, and feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any questions for me on any of the topics that I discussed today. So with that, I would just like to say thank you for your time today. We made use of the full hour and hope to engage with you in the not too distant future. Bye-bye now.